Hey guys, All in Crypto here, and welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, for another YouTube video. I hope you've all had a triumphant Tuesday and a great week so far. Today we're going to do something slightly different. We are, of course, going to be diving into Cardano, but we're going to be looking at it from a criticism point of view. We're going to be looking at some of the criticism surrounding Cardano and showing you how it just doesn't really make much sense. We're going to be squashing, in other words, a lot of the FUD that Cardano ADA receives. And today I stumbled across an article that I thought was brilliant. And the reason being is because it's factually based and it squashes a lot of the criticism that the critiques have to offer in regards to ADA. The article reads, Cardano criticism don't stack up. And we're going to be getting into it, going through this article and showing you the evidence to support what this article is saying and really reiterating the fact that a lot of the FUD surrounding ADA is just complete garbage. And in doing this, we're going to show you some of the real strong points that Cardano has going for it, a lot of the benefits that Cardano has, and the majority, the vast majority of criticism that Cardano receives, it's from hateful people that have vested interests elsewhere, that have special interests in other projects, and have a reason to not want a competitor such as Cardano, and it is, in my opinion, the ultimate Ethereum competitor. They're a blockchain that's been done right, in my opinion, and we're going to start seeing the fruits of that with the DApp ecosystem turning on. So that's what we're going to do. We're going to spend the majority of this video going through this article. Well worth a listen, well worth a read. We will leave a description. We will leave a link, in the description, but we're going to read it together and go over some of the evidence that factually backs up this article. They're going to talk about Haskell. Is the fact that Cardano's code is Haskell, or the Haskell language, an issue? Or is it a huge benefit? And does it allow for specialization of the blockchain? Because that's one of the main criticisms that Cardano has in regards to its language, Haskell. We know that Ethereum's built on Solidity. Lots of developers kind of say they don't really want to use or build on top of Cardano because it's typically quite hard and Haskell can be a bit of an issue. But Haskell has some unique advantages as far as the code goes, certainly in the realms of finance. And we're going to get into all that and also really tackle one of the main critiques that Cardano has about it being a ghost chain. So let's start by taking a look at the markets. Markets are a little bit more perky today, but this to me is relief. We've seen a lot of downtrend. This is Cardano, of course. We've seen it for Bitcoin. I bought more Cardano yesterday and I ended up FOMOing him about a couple of hours ago as I started to see the price move up, but I'm very, very happy to accumulate Cardano, certainly at these prices. If I was willing to buy all along here, I'm more than happy to buy down here, guys. And we did tweet yesterday and we said the same people that bought Cardano at $3 are the same people bashing it down here instead of buying it. It doesn't make a lot of sense. You know, the fundamentals up here were strong, but they're even stronger down here, and you're getting it at a discounted price, in my opinion. So let's get into this article. Cardano criticism don't stack up. If Cardano is a ghost chain, then it is experiencing a lot of paranormal activity. Why do developers not want to work on Cardano, and why does Cardano use Haskell? And that's exactly what we're going to be getting into. This is from Finance Magnets. And it came out yesterday, and it's a brilliant read, and we're going to be showing you some of the articles and surrounding data to support what this article is saying and really squash a lot of the doubts that some of you have, because Twitter is a pretty toxic space, and there's lots of negativity on there, and when you're surrounding yourself by it, sometimes it can be quite hard to figure out what you should and shouldn't believe, and this article is really going to point you in the right direction and give you some evidence-based points on why a lot of the criticism is irrelevant and comes from very bitter individuals. So where to start with Cardano? There is a lot going on, and so much criticism gets thrown Cardano's way that it is difficult to know what to take seriously and what to filter out as nothing more than the usual crypto noise. And there's a lot of it in the crypto space. There are definitely some arguments that just don't stack up, though, and to get a true assessment of where Cardano might be heading, it is worth identifying them. Is it really a ghost chain? One of the regular criticisms you will hear is that Cardano is a ghost chain, meaning that regardless of whether or not it is functional, it does not have any actual development and no one is using it. But is that actually true? It is reported that in 2021, Cardano was actually the blockchain on which there was the most development on GitHub, edging ahead of its rivals. And this is the data to support that. We've covered this in previous videos. So the idea that Cardano is a ghost chain is just complete and utter nonsense, yet it's one of the most reoccurring critiques that Cardano receives. And it just goes to show you that a lot of the people, I listen to a lot of the mainstream podcasts like Bankless, Unchained, and they go out of their way to either not mention Cardano as an Ethereum or a smart contract competitor, or to throw some sort of shade on it. We've also seen a lot of YouTubers out there with a lot of following really bash ADA. And when you kind of look a little bit under the surface, what you'll find is that these guys are heavily backing other blockchains. So it's very unfair and often is a complete misrepresentation of what's actually going on beneath the surface. There's a reason we are so bullish on ADA, because I've done enough due diligence on this coin to understand that it is a serious competitor for the smart contract crown. And you do not have to spend long looking into Cardano to find out that there is an entire ecosystem of dApps in production right now to deploy, it seems, in the near future, as can be seen on this interactive map. And the map that they're talking about is, of course, what's taking place over here. We've looked at Cardano Cube on a number of occasions. It really highlights the ecosystem that's blossoming. So much development taking place on ADA. The ghost chain comments are just complete and utter lies, is the only real way to put it. Then there is the news that this week that the Korean electronic giant Samsung would be partnering with VECHAIN to engage in the largest scale conservation project in Madagascar. VECHAIN offers a blockchain-based platform through which to address environmental problems, and it functions on Cardano. We covered this on the channel. Samsung to plant millions of trees to fight climate change. They're doing this through VECHAIN. VECHAIN is a economic solution ran on top of Cardano for getting trees in the ground. They're now fully funded, and we know that Samsung committed to planting 2 million trees through them, ultimately gaining access or exposure to the Cardano blockchain. For a network that supposedly has no activity, that looks like a remarkably tangible real-life use, demonstration, a meaningful level of trust from one of the most high-profile corporates on the planet. If Cardano is a ghost chain, then it is experiencing a lot of paranormal activity. It is indeed. So that we've squashed, just at the start of this article, the whole narrative of Cardano being a ghost chain. The next bit that we're going to move on to is Haskell a problem? And you're going to find again that the people saying it is really do not understand what they're talking about. In actual fact, Haskell is a benefit in many areas. Is Haskell a problem? It is said that because Cardano uses the Haskell programming language, developers do not want to work on it. However, the problem with this dismissal is that it is never followed up with any inquiry as to why Cardano uses Haskell. The founder of Cardano, Charles Hoskinson, is clearly no dunce, and Haskell is not second-rate, and yet the "but they use Haskell" argument is present, as if settling on Cardano was an ignorant blunder rather than a deliberate selection. When one of the most strategic things I've ever seen a blockchain do is go into Africa and look to onboard users within that continent, because it's one of the most mass adoption moves for a blockchain that I've ever seen. Cardano have thought things through. They've tried and tested the kind of measure twice and cut once method, where they've really gone over everything and strategically thought things out, is present even with the Haskell language, and that's going to become apparent as I read on. The reality is that Haskell is a precise and secure, well-suited to financial products. In fact, for those reasons, it is often used in fintech, including at places such as ABN AMRO, Barclays and Morgan Stanley. In fact, there are multiple examples of Haskell being utilized with resounding success. And I'll show you some of these. So we can see here, software written in Haskell, story success. You've got Sigma by Facebook. You've got Target using Haskell for supply chains. You've got a functional payment framework at Barclays, which is a huge bank here in the UK, and so on and so forth. So it's a very, very specific language that is often championed by fintech companies for financial products. So there's a lot more. There's a reason. It wasn't just a to be different decision. There was a well thought out reason why Haskell was the language chose. Yes, we know it may mean that the main problem with Haskell is that not many developers actually use that language. And then, of course, Cardano have also come up with a way to solve this problem with the EVM compatibility machines. So everything has been thought out. And these things that are actually huge benefits by the critics have been turned to cons and not pros. Now, admittedly, that might not sound very exciting when part of the appeal of crypto is that it is unregulated, cyberpunk, high risk / return reputation, and there is an enormous benefit to onboarding developers through accessibility. But keep in mind that it is exactly that perception of lawlessness and risk and being an open mic free-for-all that when it comes to anything related to personal finance, it keeps large number of people away and prevents full mainstream adoption. Perhaps you like it that way, in which case, fine, that is understandable. However, if we were just to ask objectively, what kind of blockchain would get a middle-of-the-road, financial, prudent user on board, which equates to a lot of people, then the answer might not be whichever blockchain is sexiest, but rather whichever blockchain looks safe. Exactly. And in that case, if we were ranking for stability and prudence and an image, whether it is accurate or not, that is not too out there, then Cardano would be highly placed. So it's winning. You know, these guys, there are a number of benefits that these guys have actually left out of here to the Haskell code. It's a strategic move that people have found fault in, even though there's no fault to be found within it. The next part of this goes on about VCs. Community or VCs is, of course, the title of the next chapter. So we'll read this, and then we'll wrap it all up. We'll go over a few things that sort of support all of this. And then I'll love and leave you to the rest of your days. Community or VCs. There was a lot of interest towards the end of last year when Jack Dorsey took aim at Web3 proponents for their projects being overly centered around VC interest. Dorsey appears to believe strongly in decentralization and perhaps leans towards a Bitcoin maxi philosophy. And there is nothing wrong with that at all. After all, decentralization is supposed to be the core of crypto. We've looked at the fact that Solana, Avalanche, a number of other projects out there are heavily VC-backed and funded, and that has everything to do with why they've been as successful as they have, because they've been on the side of the media and so on and so forth. Well, these VC funds are often very cozy with a lot of the mainstream media outlets. And it really sums up why they've done so well. Solana, for example, is very heavily involved with FTX, which is one of the rising cryptocurrency exchanges, and has been promoted very heavily through them. Whereas Cardano doesn't really have that, but what it does have is a community that is immutable. And it's really the secret weapon that Cardano bears is the community. It's you guys, ultimately, that are going to further the adoption and be the people using ADA. VCs aren't in the masses. It's a very small amount of people with a lot of money, whereas the community, us guys, may not have as much money, but there's a lot more of us. And the more people using something, the greater the adoption, theoretically. And it's adoption and usage and utility that's really going to drive these cryptos in the long run, which is going back to the point about Africa, why that's one of the most strategic partnerships that I've seen. You know, they're going to be the real beneficiaries of DeFi because there's no alternative system there for them. Or there are, but they're very corrupt and expensive, more expensive than we have here in some of the Western world countries. But where would Cardano fall in this discussion? The answer is that it comes out looking very good. It is decentralized, not reliant on VCs. Critically, it is maintained a high profile and high market cap on the strength of its community. According to the Cardano Foundation, as of last Christmas, the number of ADA wallets had reached 2.5 million, having been at just 190,000 a year earlier, meaning there was an annual increase of 1,200%. And I think I have the tweet here for you. So we've seen huge growth. That's what we often talk about on this channel, the fact that despite the price action, the fundamentals just keep getting stronger and stronger. And the fundamentals, the price will usually follow. And that is exactly what we're expecting. And why? At the start of the video, I said I was happy to pick up ADA yesterday. And of course, Admittedly, I FOMO'd in a little bit today as I saw the price starting to move up. But I'm happy to pick it up at these prices, thinking it's undervalued as it is. And we've looked at the Grayscale article tackling that. Community is not everything. It is true. We are not organizing a village feat. But in this case, when we are talking specifically about tech adoption with a key emphasis on replacing centralized structures, then the number of active users are highly significant. What is more is that it seems likely that when it comes to finance in particular, not everyone wants to use products put together by people who move fast and break things, such a philosophy makes sense at the wild frontier, but in the world of crypto, all the talk now is of an industry that is warming up to a broader adoption. And that's where we're heading. We often said that's the real value proposition with crypto, is we're very early in terms of adoption in regards to where we're going. Very small amount of people actually own crypto in terms of the percentage of the world, and a very small amount of those people that own it actually use it on a day-to-day basis. And I didn't realize that the move fast and break thing quote actually came from Mark Zuckerberg, which is Facebook's CEO, the guy that created Facebook. So we'll finish this off, guys. Not much left now. That is not to say that we should give up on pushing the limits, or that we must accept broken establishment conventions. After all, what then would be the point of doing something new? And it wraps up by saying, crypto is very early in terms of adoption, essentially highlighting the things that we're saying. So this was a brilliant article. We'll leave a link to it in the description for those of you that want to read it yourself. I just sort of skimmed through it, so forgive me for any mispronunciations. Very interesting, and of course there is evidence to back up everything this article is saying and sort of squash all the criticism that ADA receives. Now, before I leave, guys, I just want to say a huge thank you to each and one of my community members, the people that are in the Discord. I do go on there and read it, even though I may not have as much time as I'd like to get involved with it. And of course, the people delegating to our stake pool. We do have a Cardano stake pool, ALLIN is a ticker. And as of right now, we have 1.5 million Cardano in it. That means we're going to mint blocks regularly, so we shouldn't really miss too many blocks, which is going to mean there's more of a constant reward, and so on and so forth. So this is something we're extremely excited about. It's a huge goal of mine to be a Cardano stake pool operator, and it's something that it's looking like we've achieved. So a massive thank you to each and every one of you delegating, commenting, supporting me, my channel, my social medias, and of course the stake pool. On that note, guys, I'm going to love and leave you. Hang in there, and I'll catch you all in the next YouTube video. Thank you very much for watching, ladies and gentlemen.